Welcome to our 12th entity, the Arthasastha. The word only appears in the books of Ezra and Nehemiah. The word, as it appeared in the Hebrew originally, was Arthasastha, and it was translated as such into the Greek by the translators of the Hebrew text into Greek around 500. They translated around 300 BC, and they chose the word Arthasastha. Now, the King James translators in 1500, much thousands of years later, for some reason decided to use the word Artaxerxes, who was a Persian king who reigned during the time of Esther, much later than Ezra and Nehemiah. So it wasn't Artaxerxes. That's incorrect translation as far as I can see. Now the question is, where does this word Arthasastha come from? Well, Persia was very close to where people were speaking and writing in Sanskrit, where today's Pakistan and India. And there was what's called a treatise called the Arthasastha. Now, I'm sure that Arthasastha comes from that word. I'm pretty sure of it anyway. I don't know Sanskrit. I would think it's a possibility the Arthasastha is the treatise on, it says here in Wikipedia, a treatise on statecraft, political science, economic policy, and military strategy. And possibly in Sanskrit, the Arthasastha was the man who implemented this system. The Arthasastha is divided into 15 books, and here are listing of all of these that will come from Wikipedia on the subject of training, on the activities of superintendents, on justices, eradication of thorns, whatever that means, on secret conduct, basis of the circle, don't know what that means, on the sixfold strategy, on the subject of calamities, activity of a king preparing to march into battle, on war, conduct towards confederacies, on the weaker king, means of capturing a fort, esoteric practices, and organization of a scientific treatise. So all these things were under the study of Arthasastha, and I believe that this came into Persia at the time of Cyrus and later Darius. We see the word being used in these following places. Now, we'll find it's not just one person, it's more of like a title. In Ezra 4:7 and 8, it says, "And in the days of Arthasastha, Mithridate and Tavil, with the rest of his fellow servants, to Arthasastha, king of the Persian." Now, this first one, I believe, is Nehemiah, because we'll see later on in Nehemiah where it says that he is the Arthasastha. And he wrote one letter against Jerusalem to Arthasastha, king. Now, I don't believe that's a name. Ezra 4:11, it says, "This is the disposition of the letter which they sent to him, to Arthasastha." In 4:23, "Then the tribute gatherer of the Arthasastha king read before Rehum the master, and he caused them to cease work with horses and a force." This was possibly during Cyrus in Israel, when the people that were there Sanballat and Tobiah came against Nehemiah and Ezra to stop the work of rebuilding the city and the temple. And then later comes Darius. And then Ezra 6:14, it says, "And the elders of the Jews built and prospered at the prophecy of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah son of Iddo. And they rebuilt and made ready by the decree of the God of Israel and by the decree of Cyrus and Darius and the Arthasastha, kings of Persia." So I believe it's talking about these two kings as Arthasastha, following this Indus treatise that went through a little bit earlier. Ezra 7:1, it continues, "And after these things, in the kingdom of Arthasastha, the king of the Persians, there ascended Ezra the son of Sariah," probably during Cyrus. It couldn't have been Artaxerxes who reigned at Esther's time. And then Ezra 7:7, "And there ascended some from the sons of Israel unto Jerusalem in the 7th year to Arthasastha, to the king," possibly again during Cyrus's time. Ezra 7:11, "And this is the copy of the edict which Arthasastha the king gave to Ezra the priest," again during Cyrus's time. 7:12, "Arthasastha the king of kings to Ezra the priest, scribe of the law of the God of the heavens," during Cyrus. 7:21, "Arthasastha the king established a decree." 8:1, "And these are the rulers of their families and the genealogies of the ones ascending with me in the kingdom of Arthasastha, the king of Babylon," which Cyrus was because he took over Babylon. And these Jews that were there now were under Cyrus. Nehemiah 2:1, "And it came to pass in the month of Nisan, the 20th year of Arthasastha the king," during Cyrus possibly. And Nehemiah 5:14, "And also from the day which he gave charge to me to be for their ruler in the land of Judah, from the 20th year unto the 30th and 2nd year of Arthasastha the king," probably Cyrus, who sent Nehemiah back. It doesn't say Cyrus and Nehemiah. It always calls him the Arthasastha. And Nehemiah 8:9, the Arthasastha king. In 8:9, "And Nehemiah spoke, who is Arthasastha." So here now Nehemiah is called the Arthasastha. And so Nehemiah is a man who is probably somewhat following the government of that time, which could have been influenced by this I got to get these things, the Arthasastra treatise of how government is to be run. But now here, interestingly, the King James uses the word Tirshatha. It doesn't have the same spelling as all the rest of the places where it has Arthasastha, and which is interesting because the translators at the time of Alexander, a little bit after, when they were translating the Hebrew scripture, translated the Hebrew into Arthasastha, not Tirsatha, because the Tirsatha is a slightly different spelling for this word in Hebrew. But yet, the translators translated the Hebrew into Arthasastha, the same as the others, which leads me to believe that's a possibility that the modern day Hebrew, where they use this Tirsatha, was not the original, because if it was somebody different than the translators at the time of around 300 BC, translating the Hebrew into the Greek, they would have not have used Arthasastha. If it was different, they would have used a different word, or Tirsatha, but they didn't. So that's interesting. Now, it ends in Nehemiah 13:6, the last quotation of the word for the Arthasastha. And it says, "During all this time I was not in Jerusalem, for in the 30th and 2nd year of Arthasastha, king of Babylon, I went to the king," and it's probably Cyrus, "and because he's not in Jerusalem. So this was before a lot of the things that happened at the end when these people came against the Jews, Sanballat and Tobiah. And we will go into next the book of Ezra, maybe Nehemiah. I have to pray about that, think about that, which one would be the first. Nehemiah is more of a man who rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem. Wasn't so much involved as far as the book of Nehemiah goes, as far as the spiritual things of the temple and so forth, and the ministry of the priests and Levites, as much as Ezra, who was a priest and a scribe, and he wrote more of the things of the priesthood and things that the people were doing against the rules of the Torah, the books of Moses. So one of the next video is going to be either Ezra or Nehemiah. So hope you continue with the next entity in the timeline between the exile and Jesus. Till then, God bless.